Living in America as a black person, you recognize there is one set of laws for you and one set of laws for those, especially in the white community. In our book, Passive Aggressive Racism in the System of White Supremacy, I take you through times in my life when I first started noticing white supremacy. We teach you how to recognize it, identify it, and also counter it in our book. This book is a beginner's course for those that are just starting to wake up and open their eyes to see the system of white supremacy. As a black American person, you must understand this system because this system is life or death to you. How you handle it, how you deal with it, it can affect your mental health if you don't understand this system. Pick up our book, Passive Aggressive Racism and the System of White Supremacy, today on Amazon.
Welcome back to the African Diaspora News channel. My name is Richard Sudan. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe and support the platform. So a very interesting story out of the UK, which was actually from a couple of weeks ago, but I've been away, but I'm back now. And I wanted to bring this story to your attention because I'm almost sure you didn't see this story. The story goes, and the headline says, white supremacist sentenced to read novels and other literary classics instead of being imprisoned. So in the UK, you had a young neo-Nazi white supremacist who was downloading bomb-making material, and instead of being put behind bars or some kind of custody, the judge ruled that this man was to read books, instead of a custodial sentence behind bars. Now let me read the initial paragraph in the article here. Judge Timothy Spencer QC told 21-year-old Ben John he could stay out of prison as long as he steered clear of white supremacy literature and read books and plays by Jane Austen, William Shakespeare, Thomas Hardy and Charles Dickens. The former De Montfort University student will have to return to court every 4 months to be tested on his reading by the judge after avoiding jail. Now, it also says in the article, John had first been identified as a terror risk after his 18th birthday, in other words, 3 years ago, and was referred to the PREVENT program. For those that don't know, the PREVENT program is a government program which is designed to flag up and sort of get anyone on the radar, young people, young adults, what have you, in schools, but also adults who they suspect might be involved in potential terrorism. And by the way, the PREVENT program, which is a government program, has been accused of spying on Muslim communities and people who have got nothing to do with terrorism, people that are innocent. Anyway, this guy, Ben John, had been referred to PREVENT. So he'd actually been on their radar for a while. This guy was actually already known in the system for downloading right-wing documents and white supremacist paraphernalia. Now imagine this scenario here. Here's a man who was a known white supremacist downloading bomb-making material. Let me say that again. This guy was downloading bomb-making instructions, and instead of being put behind bars, he's got a slap on the wrist and has been sentenced to read books and novels and report to the judge every few months. This sounds almost like some sort of a fictitious story, some sort of a satirical, some sort of satirical story. This doesn't make any sense at all. This beggars belief. And really, just a couple of brief points here. Again, this shows you the inherent double standard when it comes to de-incentivizing, punishing white supremacists. And there's probably a lot of you who think that racism isn't as bad in the UK as it is in the US. It really is. The UK is very good at kind of propagating this image of being non-racist, of somehow being more advanced than the United States. And of course, we are a much smaller country with usually a much less armed police force, although there are armed units that have killed black and brown people in very controversial cases. But nonetheless, and actually, even though we're a smaller country, proportionally, we actually have more black and brown people locked up behind bars. But this story about this young Nazi sympathizer. Let's look at the language in this, the language. Now, they've described Ben John as a young Nazi sympathizer. Now, Ben John is a white guy. Now, sympathizer is an interesting choice of language because in my mind, in my understanding, you're either a Nazi or not. You're either a white supremacist or not. You're either a terrorist or not. You know, you either have those leanings or you don't. But they've described this guy as a young Nazi sympathizer, regardless of the fact he's been on their radar for a couple of years, downloaded various white supremacist materials and bomb-making instructions. Of course, if this guy was black or Muslim or both, you don't see the language of a terrorist sympathizer. Black and brown people and Muslim people, they just get labelled as terrorists, often if there isn't any evidence against them actually. This happens all the time. And so we see at play here a sort of two-tier injustice system, a two-tier legal system. This guy is walking free, and actually, you know, this is it's a laughable state of affairs in the sense it reveals in a quick heartbeat the implausibility, the the fallacy of the system. But actually, this is a serious scenario. If this guy is a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer, as the story says, and he's downloading bomb-making materials, what the hell is the government and the security services doing? It's almost like they want a situation where this guy is going to be able to fulfill his desires as a white supremacist. Here we go. Commenting on the sentence, counter-terrorism policing East Midlands Detective Inspector Manning, who led the investigation, get this, says this was a young man who could be anyone's son, studying at university and living one life in public while conducting another in private. Let's read that first sentence again. This was a young man who could be anyone's son, studying at university. Again, just like in the US, you see this kind of humanizing of this individual who's accused of very serious racist motivated crimes, and this is the counter-terrorism policing inspector of the region where this man was caught, who's using all this kind of soft language to describe this white guy. And I promise you this, if this was a man from another demographic, from a black demographic or some sort of non-white demographic, of course the language in the media, the language used to describe him by the police officers and investigators, the language and the treatment by the judge and the system would be very different indeed. Again, we almost see these people getting on code. I just want to read this last sentence to you again. Imagine this. He possessed a wealth of National Socialist and anti-Semitic material which indicated a fascination and belief in a white supremacist ideology, along with support for an extreme satanic group which is increasingly of concern for law enforcement agencies. Well, there you go. All the evidence is available on this guy. This guy, Ben John, has been on the security services radar, and he's walked free, and he's been asked to read a bunch of novels. And by the way, the choice of novels is quite interesting too, but that's probably a conversation for another day. Ironically, it says, De Montfort University confirmed that Ben John was a criminology student when he was arrested, but he had been suspended with immediate effect on his arrest. So here you go. Neo-Nazi sympathizer or neo-Nazi, white supremacist, is described as really anything other than that almost in the media, treated with kid gloves, double standard at play in the justice system. This guy is walking free, and of course, for those of you that don't know, there's been an ongoing problem really. The difference, of course, between the US and the UK, it's illegal in the UK for you to be a neo-Nazi or a white supremacist belonging to certain groups, be a police officer, be in the armed forces, etc. But at the same time and time again, we periodically see individuals called out, individuals discovered within sort of public institutions, things like the armed forces and the police, and they definitely do have membership leanings towards these groups. But of course, I know that the image you will often get of the UK and the US is a bit of a slanted one, so that's why I wanted to bring this story to you today. White supremacist neo-Nazi sympathizer sentenced to read novels, books, after downloading bomb-making material. We'll leave that there. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is the African Diaspora News channel. My name is Richard Sudan, and we will see you next time.
Colonization never ended in the white supremacist system. And as we see today, the colonization is in the mind. Now, those who have been enslaved and those who have been colonized, we're still dealing with the remnants of that through the colonization of the mind. Pick up my book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, and we will help deprogram you from the colonization that was put upon you by generations and generations of white supremacy. You can pick it up today on Amazon.com.
Hello, everyone. Please make sure you subscribe to the African Diaspora News Channel app on these platforms.